All right, dear. This is a conversation I have been looking forward to for quite a while.
Oh, okay.
Because we're talking e-commerce, both physical and digital, versus lead gen.
Right.
Now, dear, I wouldn't quite liken your reaction to that of Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future anytime someone used the word chicken and his head turned and he bristled a little bit. But am I right in saying that sort of lead gen, you don't quite have the same mojo, or it doesn't quite float your boat the way that maybe once upon a time, we were led to believe by bringing you all these lead gen opportunities? Tell us about this.
Yeah, I'm a bit schizophrenic about lead gen these days. I like lead gen, and I've got a lot of experience with it, and I'm good at it, and I can get some results out of it under certain circumstances. But there's a lot of other circumstances where it's intensely frustrating. And the biggest, for me, the biggest hang-up I have about it is that the supply chain to get you from the lead, which could be, a form filled in or a quote or a postcode submitted or whatever. The supply chain to get you from that to getting paid can be very lengthy, very involved, very time consuming and very opaque. And often there's no connection between the lead creation and the lead outcome. And this is very much the case in big organizations where you've got the marketing department does something, and then the sales department does something, and then and so one department won't talk to another and connect these systems up most of the time. And so basically it's the follow the money problem. Is you can see the dollars going out, but you can't see the dollars coming back in again. There is an exception, and that is with what I call lead brokers who sell these leads. And there's any number of those out there, in all kinds of industries, for double glazing and solar panels and
real estate,
transport and real estate, and you name it. So you can set yourself up as a lead broker because you're good at capturing the traffic of people who are interested by looking and putting a nice website together so that you then gather all these things up, and then you don't fulfill the leads yourself. You simply sell them to the fulfillment people, who are the tradespeople or the local firms who actually do the work. So you can sell those leads, and of course then, since you know the dollar value of the lead, you can say, well, okay, I know that I get paid $30 for this lead, so anything that I spend under that is profit. And that's fair enough. But in most cases, most B2B organizations that I've ever worked with, when I've been involved in lead gen, are what I call self-fulfilling lead generation, which is they fulfill the lead, they service it, they book the business, they get paid as a result of that lead happening. And you've got any number of steps in the sales process between the lead happening and money changing hands. And so what I love to see happening when I'm looking at a campaign running, what floats my boat, what gets me excited, is seeing the conversions coming in and seeing the money coming in, the actual revenue.
Is it? I'm going to come at this from a different angle, and I'm also going to come from a different angle based on some of the offline conversations we've had before about your situation and stuff like that. Was there an element of you yourself needing to narrow down on the e-commerce aspect because you just couldn't, quote unquote, afford to be in an industry as a guy where basically if you didn't sell, you didn't eat, right? If you weren't delivering for people, that length of time also didn't fit in with kind of you wanted to be able to prove your worth a lot quicker than perhaps the lead generation environment was allowing you to do.
That's a really good question. I've had a variety of experiences over time with the lead gen, in quotes, side of things, and even service providers like printers Now, I'm not referring to the device, but actual people who do printing jobs. You know, they print labels and they print all manner of things. I mean, and I had a client who'd got, and ironically enough, they were one of the very, very few clients I've had over the years who were physically, geographically close to where I live. Oh, wow. You know, most of my business comes from long distances away or overseas or whatever. You know, I told you my first ever client in the world in this whole business in 2005 was a lady in real estate in Houston. She was my first client. And I've got clients all over the world, and you know, this is one of the things we'll talk about further when we get down to, you know, the whole working from home situation. Is you can run an international business from anywhere. You know, from your home, your car, your hotel, doesn't matter. Once you've got all these things in place, all of this stuff, this is the fabulous opportunity that we've got with all the technology that we've got. You know, a lot of it free or low cost or whatever. But so this printing company wasn't far away from me. I went along to see him, and they got a nice little shop, nice little operation going and so forth. They wanted more work. Classic situation. They had done a bit of this AdWords stuff for themselves. The website wasn't terribly brilliant, but it was okay. But they had no control over their website. Right? They'd had it done for them, and they'd spent some money doing that. And again, this is a very typical situation, and it's on my tick list of things that are red flags, is if you can't, at a stroke, update your website, your web pages, your content and so forth, you've got a serious problem in what you're trying to do with your online business. So anyway, these guys were hostage to their website and their website provider, and they were unwilling to spend any money to get anything done to the website. It just had to, you know, work as it was. Their business was, I'd say their business was a very sort of almost traditional one. You know, it was pretty straightforward and basic and pretty old-fashioned, and they just weren't in the days of, they haven't brought themselves up to date into the, you know, the era of all this internet-based stuff. So anyway, I started running the campaigns for them, and I was getting some good click-through rates and so forth. But all they were doing was getting leads, and they then had no clue at all about what happened to the lead in terms of its monetary value. Did they buy stuff? So again, like I say in the book, AdWords always works. If it doesn't work for your business, there's a problem with your business. And their problem was, and also, you know, most of the consulting that I do, and most of the consulting that needs to be done in this whole situation is not traffic generation. It's how do we make that traffic accountable for the money it spends? What does it earn? Right? And I go on and on and on and on ad infinitum about all this. It's pointless putting money into the AdWords box until you know what money comes back. And so these guys, they couldn't figure that out. And I said to them, oh, you know, give a sample pack away or something, you know, at least understand what happens next, you know, and then who's going to, from the sample pack, who's going to buy from the sample pack? How do you get that order? You know, you've got to be there. Even if you take the order over the phone, we can still import offline sales like that. You know, there's a way to do that. So, but they just couldn't get out of their own way.
You know,
it's really frustrating. And I had them for several years actually like that. And then eventually one day they turned around and said, we're not doing it anymore.
Surprise.
And that, yeah, and that's happened to me a lot over time. And so as I've been, you know, in the early days, as these were the kinds of clients that I was working with. And so to your point, I began to see, once I'd figured out this whole thing about, you know, seeing the money back and forth, I'm like, well, if I can prove that, you know, $1 in gets $11 back, then we ain't going to stop doing this because it works.
Yeah. And of course, you said it not in as many words, but you explained almost like what you've experienced when people are not doing e-commerce with their AdWords. Sometimes they're even in kind of no man's land. And what I mean by that, they're not doing one or t'other. Because I see this often, you know, you know what it's like. You get into the game a little bit. You see people running AdWords and you click through just to see, you know, and understand the system and the funnel and so on and so forth. But the number of businesses, particularly at the localish level, dear, who I see who are doing Google AdWords, and then when you click on, you go to a homepage. And on this homepage, they have not asked you to sign up for an ebook about 10 reasons why you need to get a solicitor to oversee this, nor have they actually said, here, we've got a special, to oversee the entire purchase of your house, buy now here, or form your business here. So it's not doing one or another. You know?
As is usually the case in this whole game, and this is what it is, and we're just playing a game here. I talk about it in the book. I've mentioned it before. This whole thing is a game of identity and numbers, and the two things in this game are required. They're both there. It's identity because it's about the person doing the search and reading the ad and responding to the ad and clicking through and getting to the landing page and responding to the landing page and filling in the lead or buying the item or adding it to the cart and all of that. That's the identity bit. And then the numbers is all the data that's going on under the hood of impressions, clicks, click-through rates, conversions, conversion rate, cost per conversion, conversion cost divided by conversion value divided by cost, which is your return. All this, and you can see all this data, and you can slice and dice it up into devices, networks, times of day, days of week, locations, all of that stuff. And that's what this game is all about. And we're supposed to be in it to win. How do you know when you've won? Daniel Priestley talks about this in his amazing book, Key Person of Influence. I've just bought it and downloaded some audio files to listen to it. And he talks about, this is your big game. Well, I'm playing the big game for every client I work with, and their big game is to turn $1 into more than $1. And there are rules to that game, and their rules, the client's rules are, I can't spend any more than this as a CPA, or I have to get this return on ad spend, to make this profitable for me, for my business. Every business is unique, right? So that's the whole game thing, and we're supposed to be playing it to win it, and we win it by earning more than we spend.
Do you think, because I certainly feel in my journey as a digital marketer, and particularly when I started sort of looking and studying funnels a little bit more, do you feel that in this day and age of being able to track and retarget, and even with things like, in Facebook, you've got things like custom audiences where, now people that visit a page can be put in a certain category and then you can advertise in front of them. Well, I'm not saying it's easy, because there's a lot of things that need to be in place in order to set up a successful sort of e-commerce platform and that. But would you say that gone are the days where someone will come to a page and they either buy it or they don't, that there are ways to kind of follow up and track them without putting them into the email follow-up responder situation?
It's such a good question, as usual. And this is one of the things that really makes e-commerce so incredibly different from lead gen. What you've got to think to yourself is, with lead gen, for the person visiting your page who you want to get completing your lead, what's at stake for them, right? Now, obviously, what's in it for them, because you've got to be giving them something they're interested in. So if they're interested in getting some printing done, then you're going to be wanting them to come to your page because they need a job done. So that's why you got them. So that's what's in it for them. But what's at stake for them? Well, giving away an email address or some other piece of your identity, it isn't that it's trivial. I'm not trivializing this, because I always think very seriously about giving my email address to anywhere I go, because of the fact that, we know what happens now. I'm just going to get spammed and followed around and all that crap, and I don't want to have any of that. So I'm often very reluctant to part with my email address. But I tell you what, if I'm on a site where they're like, oh my, this is really for me, I can't get at them fast enough.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about what's at stake. And in the lead gen game, there's really a lot less at stake than there is in the e-commerce game, because in e-commerce you're buying something and parting with your money. And do people come to e-commerce stores and part with their money? Oh yes, absolutely they do. I see it with my clients all the time. Of course, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this thing anymore. Not only do people come and buy within minutes or hours or the same day or whatever, and you can see that data in a report called Search Funnels, where you can see the length of time that elapses between somebody coming and somebody buying. Okay, so In lead gen, it all works very differently. So there's a lot less at stake, and you'll give your email address and you'll complete the lead, and there you go, and then you'll get followed up, and so the whole sales process will start to happen. With e-commerce, though, the whole thing behaves very, very differently. And your question was a really good one, because here's the thing. I see this all the time. People say, oh, I've got my search campaigns, I must have a remarketing campaign. Everybody tells me I must have a remarketing campaign, or I must have a display campaign, content network as it used to be called, and all these things. And there are a bunch of different campaign types. We're going to go through these in detail in future shows and episodes, where we talk about campaign management and all the different campaign types and who should be running them and what they are and what they do and how they work and what they don't do and what you shouldn't do and all these things. And what I've observed is this. In e-commerce, search campaigns work fine. Display campaigns and remarketing campaigns struggle like mad.
Okay.
They really struggle like mad to make sales. Right? Now, I profess to not being a display network expert. I've used it in the past. It can be very good for lead gen. This is the paradoxical thing. It's the inverse. Display content network campaigns and remarketing stuff can work like no tomorrow for lead gen. But I tell you, they usually are terrible for e-commerce. So we have amongst the, I don't know, off the top of my head, 8 or 9 different campaign types then available within an AdWords account. Then there are some that you will absolutely use for e-commerce and some that you will not use for e-commerce. Some that you might try display, but you might try remarketing and dynamic remarketing, as it's called, and see if it works. But the sales conversions and revenue that you will get from that, I will guarantee, are only incremental. They're only a small amount. The volume of sales for e-commerce comes from search and it comes from shopping. Some more can come out of things called dynamic search campaigns. That type of campaign is a complete bust for lead gen. Absolute disaster area in my experience. I've tried it. Here's the thing, you see, because I'm on commission and I'm trying to get more sales and revenue for clients.
Of course, it's in your interest.
It's in my interest to figure this stuff out. So, when Google comes up with a new campaign type, like they did not long ago with call-only campaigns, I'm like, hey, well, this could be useful for e-commerce, for orders over the phone. Let's try it. Does it always work? Not necessarily.
How is it received, dear? Because, once upon a time, people would come to you and bring something to you and say, look, I'd like to do this. And you'd, of course, say, okay, look, I'll put it in place now. And now, of course, you've got an opinion based on being in the trenches. And as you say, seeing what works and what doesn't work. Do you still have the same tolerance level when someone brings something to you that you can see with a trained eye that, look, I don't think that, I know you have an obligation to speak up, but how is it received when somebody is adamant that, hey, look, I've got this amount, I want to generate some leads, and you're saying, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah. This is all part of the interview process, if you like, in seeing whether I am a good fit for that client and if that client is a good fit for me. It's a mutual thing. It's a two-way street. I mean, I used to have this as a former European IT manager of, the American semiconductor firm that I used to work for years ago before redundancy came along and I went off and did something completely different. To be in a relationship with a firm, with a provider, it's about you both got to enjoy each other and be able to do good things for each other. And yes, when you get started in something where you ain't got any clients and you ain't got any income, then you're going to work with pretty much whoever comes your way. And you have to, because you've got to learn your craft better and you've got to try and help these people, and you're going to be doing a better job than they can do anyway, even if you're not very good at it yet. But you learn that way, and you get paid to learn, you get paid to do the job, and you improve and get better, the results get better, and the client gets a better outcome. But over time, you begin to see who are the kinds of clients, and we'll obviously talk in much more detail about this, when we talk about who's the right client for you as an agency or a manager who's, looking for outsourced work, then there is a profile. And over time, as you get a lot of experience, you begin to find the clients that excite you, and you can get results with them and make it happen for them, and you have a good feeling with, and you have empathy with, and you like their stuff. There are some clients who come my way these days and they do stuff and I'm just frankly not interested.